Hello again, my beautiful people, Jamaican youth in the building yet again. And in this one, we're talking about some topics. We're talking about the under 17 World Cup qualifiers. And we're also talking a little bit about JFF Live, the new YouTube platform that just was launched by the JFF. A good initiative, launched by the JFF. One for applaud them for that. So something that probably should have been out a while back, but we give thanks anyway that that it is out and about. But today we're not going to be long. We just want to talk a little bit about the under 17 tournament and a little bit about JFF Live. As most of you probably would have seen, if you have been watching Jamaican football, you'd have seen that the under 17 Reggae Boyz just had a World Cup qualifying campaign got qualification to Qatar. 2 days ago we played El Salvador, but prior to that we played St. Lucia or played Cayman Islands, where there were good performances. Jamaica under 17 versus St. Lucia under 17, 3-1 victory. The lads look good, the team look good. Then we see Jamaica versus Cayman Islands, a 10-1 victory by Jamaica, beating Cayman Islands, a resounding victory, and something that was needed in order to get the goal difference in favor of Jamaica, because we knew that goals would have been something that is needed or necessary in order to give ourselves a good chance of qualifying for the World Cup. And then finally we played El Salvador and lost 2-1 in a hotly contested game, but a game that, in my opinion, Jamaica should have never lost. We should have definitely have won that game, and we should have done a much better job in terms of being composed on the ball, sticking to what got us there. And I don't know how you get a little bit nervous against a team that you are admittedly better than. I mean, if you look on if you do the eye test, really Jamaica physically is stronger. We're taller. It look like we're even technically better on the ball. So there was a lot of preparation put into this under 17 team. The under 17 team has been together for years with an S on it, not just a year, but years with an S. So you're talking over 12 months of preparation for this team. But yet, I mean, we turned out losing to a team that had less preparation than we did. But not only that, we didn't qualify out of what could be described as probably the easiest World Cup qualification challenge that we have ever had in our history. This under 17 World Cup qualification challenge, if you want to call it that, it's easier because it has been expanded. The pool of teams qualifying from CONCACAF has been expanded. I think before it was only 3 or 4 teams that could have qualified from CONCACAF, and now we have 8 teams that can qualify. Jamaica was a seeded team, so we were put in a group that was considering us as the strongest team in that group. And of all the teams that were seeded, of all the groups, Jamaica is the only group, the only team that didn't live up to expectations. And I mean, that's just, I want to be careful when, discussing matters concerning, youth players, because they're still young and they're learning. But if not for the players, for the coaching staff and for the federation in general, it's really just unacceptable. The non-qualification of Jamaica under 17 to this World Cup is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, like, at what point are we as fans going to get another World Cup for cheer about? I think the last time Jamaica qualified for a World Cup was in 2011. 2011, that's over a decade ago that Jamaica has qualified for any World Cup at all. Well, for any male World Cup. We're not talking about the female World Cup, but for any male World Cup, it's since 2011. So we have to call that out. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and I know, I might be one of them people that say, "Why they only come out when something negative happen." We get that, like, I mean, I've been silent for a while because I've literally been silent since Jamaica played Honduras at the national stadium. The senior Reggae Boyz played Honduras at the national team and drew that game. That game should have been won. I've kind of been a little bit frustrated since, because we tend not to take those games seriously enough. I think people were kind of like, okay, we drew it, we still won the group. But the problem with that is that even though we won the group, we weren't the first place team, and ended up playing the United States, getting knocked out of the quarterfinals, and that was it. So I haven't really been saying anything since that, because I knew once we got the US, it wasn't going to be, we weren't going to beat the US. We just were not mentally ready to play the US. But this under 17, with all of the preparations that we have seen go on over the weeks and months leading up to this tournament, it's really heartbreaking. It's devastating. It's frustrating. You know what I mean? It leave a pretty bitter taste in my mouth, and I think most other fans, because it's almost like, I mean, we've been hoping. This is one of our hope for the men's team, one of our hopes for qualifying for the World Cup. You look at how the female team operate, love it or hate it, the way they operate, they do what works for them. Back-to-back World Cup qualifications. We might not always like how they operate when it comes on to the JFF, but the truth of the matter is there might be a reason they operate that way. They try not to allow the JFF to set the agenda. They themselves set the agenda. And if you notice, there is no quota issue in the Reggae Girls. You know what I mean? With the Reggae Girls is the best of the best play. The best players that you can get, those are the players that play. Whether those players are in England, in the United States, or in Jamaica, the best players play. And that is where we need to go for the men's side of the football. So we see the under 17, and, we can come up with a lot of different reasons as to why they may have or might have not done well. All I know is that at the end of the day, it leave a bitter taste in our mouth. You know what I mean? It was very, very, heartbreaking and devastating. For sit down and watch that match, I left the event that I was at early just so that I could get home quickly to watch that game. And unfortunately, didn't get to celebrate a World Cup berth. I mean, when you look at the Jamaican players in comparison to the El Salvador players, the Jamaican players look bigger and stronger and bulkier and, more technical on the ball. And, I mean, it seems like everything. We had scored more goals. We had the goal difference advantage. We only needed a draw. We never needed a win. We had everything going in our favor. And yet, somehow, we ended up not winning that game. And as a result, we are the only seeded team that is not in the World Cup, the Under-17 World Cup. And that's going to affect your Under-17 ranking. No, I think El Salvador is probably going to be ranked above us in the Under-17 because they qualified. So now think about the ramifications for that. Even though we're saying, it's every year, our seeding has gone down. So no, Jamaica will not be a seeded team in the next year. What will happen now is that whenever they're doing the placements, Jamaica will be placed in a group with a harder team. We can hope that team is still an El Salvador or a Honduras or a team that, we're hopefully closer matched. But if we're put in a group with a USA, a Canada, or a Mexico, it's going to be tough for us. So the ramifications of not qualifying for this World Cup means that the next year it's going to be harder because it affects our seeding. And that, to me, the lack of qualification is really just unacceptable. It's an easier zone. I do commend the coaching staff for a longer term of preparation, because that was something that fans were crying out for, and they did that. But to not qualify after all of this preparation is just not good. It really stings. So anyway, I mean, I've kind of said enough on that. I just want to look into a few things as to why this might have been the way that it was. I personally think that there are a few things that contributed to that. I chose 5 things that I think contributed to the us playing or us not playing to the best of our potential on the day when we played El Salvador. So this group of points right here just has to do with El Salvador, the game against El Salvador. And one, I think we invited pressure on our backline by sitting back too much. If you watch the first half especially, you could tell the mindset was like, okay, we just need a draw. You need to come and get the ball from us. So you need to come, and so we sat back, and you need to come at us. And so we kind of sat back with the ball and invited the pressure. And El Salvador took advantage of that. They attacked us, they pressured us, and that led to us giving up a free kick on the edge of the box. The free kick was blasted, past the keeper. Keeper couldn't even stop it. He got a hand to it, but it was so hard, it ended up in the back of the net. So that, turned out to be one problem that came as a result of us sitting back too much. So that's one thing I think led to us not playing to the best of our ability. The second thing I think is that we waited until a goal was conceded before reacting. So it's almost like we weren't going to really play like we normally play until a goal was scored. It's like when a goal was scored, that was the time we got up and said, okay, let's fight back. It's almost like we had to have conceded a goal before we decided to fight back. And that's, I don't know that that's the best way or the best approach in a situation like this, to sit back that much. And then when the goal was scored, that was the time we attacked. Not good. And then the third thing is, generally, I think we were just nervous, and the stage was like the adrenaline that was pumping, and I get it, because, like, look, if you draw or win this game, you're in the World Cup, and your life is changed forever. If you're some of those players, you're talking about contracts, possibly. The eyes of the world is on you. You get to play in a World Cup. If you never ever accomplish anything else in your footballing career after this, at least you got to play in a World Cup. If even a youth World Cup, and so the nervousness and the stage fright that was there, I think that kind of just overwhelmed the players, and it eventually turned out into them just not playing to the type of ability that they're used to playing. You know what I mean? Like, they're much better than the display that they gave against El Salvador, but the stage frightened them. El Salvador, they played like they never really had anything to lose, because they were behind the 8th ball to begin with. So it's almost like, you know what, let's just go for it. And they didn't look nervous. They didn't look scared. They didn't look frightened. But we had everything in our power. We had everything going for us. We were on the right side. We were in the best position of both teams. But for some reason, it didn't work in our favor. And then the other thing I think that led to it was the change in approach from the prior game. The starting lineup from the 10-1 victory over Cayman was no different in this 2-1 loss to El Salvador, and we'll look at that briefly. And this is something I admittedly hadn't digged deeply enough in until I kind of started trying to pay attention to some of the things. But like, we didn't. It's a different team that started against Cayman that started against El Salvador. And to an extent, you kind of trust the coach. He has been doing well, but it's like, at the same time, you could ask, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Was that the reason why things didn't work out the way? Probably not. It may just had to do with I think it had more to do with the stage fright and the nervousness more than the changing approach. But it probably had some contributing factor to the lack of qualification. And then, one of the things people point out to is the lack of instructions on the sidelines. Now, typically, this is not something that I criticize a coach for, because this is a stylistic thing. Like, you might be a coach, one coach might be a coach that sits down and is calm and, allow the game to play without, getting up and yelling instructions on the sideline. I get that. So I typically am not critical of that, while other coaches are the types to get up and they're flailing their hands and they're shouting at players and they're whistling and, they're giving instructions during the course of the game. That's some coaches. So it's a stylistic thing. Whatever gets you the win is what's important. If sitting down on the bench and saying nothing gets you the win, thumbs up. If standing up and yelling at the players gets you the win, then thumbs up to that too. In this case, however, I criticize it a little bit, because I believe that maybe getting up, especially when time was running down, especially, when more needed to come out of the players, I think maybe getting up and standing up on the sidelines and making the players see that, look, we're not going to just stand up and roll over and not qualify for this World Cup. If you showing as a coach the passion that you are not just you're not comfortable with the way they're playing right now, maybe just that alone may have inspired them and to pump more adrenaline in them and may have produced a better performance. I don't know. So I would have kind of liked to see a little bit more emotion from the coach, especially when he realizes that, look, time is running out. We don't have a lot of time to turn this game around. Let's get up on the sidelines and make these players know. Now, so these are some of the things. I know I'm Monday morning quarterbacking. It's actually Monday morning now. And so I know that, you can say all of these things after the fact and all of that. I mean, if Jamaica had qualified, I wouldn't be up here saying all of these things. I would have been praising them. And, I really wanted to do a video before the game, but I never wanted to jinx it. So I just say, you know what, let me wait. Let them qualify first, and then I'll come and talk about it. So in this video, I really wanted to talk about how well Jamaica played and how happy I was for the qualification, and credit to Coach Freddie Butler, because the preparation was good, and all of the things that you can think of that made the qualification happen. But unfortunately, here is where we are, and you kind of have to look back and say, what are some of the things that happened that could have changed, or we could have done better to make it a World Cup qualification, as opposed to where we are now. So I think these are some of the things. These are just 5 of my things. And as I was saying, if you look at the lineup, this is the 10-1 lineup against El Salvador. Right? You see a 4-4-2, sorry, not El Salvador, Cayman Islands. You see a 4-1-4-1 formation. You had 4 at the back, jump in the middle right there. And then You know, you have the two midfielders and the wingers, and the I guess the defensive midfielder right here, and then a lone striker up front. This particular formation gave us that 10-1 result against Cayman, and then here comes us against against El Salvador. We did a 4-2-3-1, and I can see what the coach is doing right here is trying to clog the space. So he has the two wingers here, maybe two more defensive-minded midfields right here, two wingers, a central midfielder that is helping to attack, maybe an attacking midfielder, and then a striker up front. So he has a much more defensive setup here, in this formation, because I'm pretty sure these two players are playing more of a defensive role, but can maybe substitute or help in attack. But I'm pretty sure these four players were more in the attack, while these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players was playing more on the defensive side of the ball. So I understand it's a more defensive setup, but I'm not criticizing that at all, because again, the coach knows how he prepared them and everything. This was his tactic. I'm not criticizing the tactic. What I do criticize is the two being too laid back and inviting the pressure. I mean, that's the part I am a little bit unhappy about. But I'm not going to do any too deep analysis into this, because I wasn't really paying that much attention to this right here. But if you look also, though, you look at the statistics, we still pretty much dominated the game. You look at the shots, 17 shots to 15 by El Salvador. Shots on target, they had more shots on target, 6 to over 2. Possession, we had 57% of the possession, they had 43%. So not a huge disparity, but we still had more of the ball than they did. 279 passes, 216 passes to them. Not a huge disparity, but an advantage nonetheless. Passing accuracy, 67%. And this is important, the amount of passes. The fact that we're now making more passes than Central American opposition is important, because that never used to happen, So this is a good stat right here. Then passing accuracy, even our passing accuracy was higher, 67% to 61%, even though not a very great percentage anyway, but it was still higher than El Salvador's, which tells you that we're kind of on the improve right there with our passing accuracy. That's good. Fouls, I think 9 committed by Jamaica, 12 committed by El Salvador, 2 yellow cards to 1 by El Salvador, no red cards, 2 times offsides to 1 by El Salvador, and then 11 times offside, or 11 corners to 5 by El Salvador. So it tells you that we dominated the game. We played the better game, or we at least had more possession of the ball. But we couldn't turn, as someone said, we couldn't turn our raw materials into a product that is good, or a product that is a winning product. It's one thing to be good, it's another thing to win. We have to start winning again and qualifying for competitions, because they say habits are easy to make but hard to break. So develop good habits. It's been too long that we haven't qualified for a World Cup, and a lot of us were hinging our bets on Jamaica qualifying for this under-17 World Cup, and it didn't happen. And I can't stop talking about how hurtful it was. As fans, we need more. We need more out for our teams. We need to see better performances. We need more. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna leave it there. Which, this will help me to kind of segue. I'm not gonna harp on and on about Reggae Boyz, because, as I said, I'm not gonna be too long today. But it helps me to segue into the JFF Live. I want to talk about that for a little bit, because the recently the JFF Live, they launched a they launched a members subscription for the JFF Live, which I think was smart. They gave a fee to register for that or to subscribe for that, and I saw $9.99, and the first thing me say when I see it, I say, boy, John, that too high. $9.99, I only a $10 that. You get me? Like, because I think to myself, boy, when me subscribe to something for $9.99, like Paramount, for example, I don't even know if Paramount that much, but like when we subscribe to that, it's a lot of content we get from Paramount. We get to watch Champions League, Syria, all type of things, Europa League, UEFA, something like the Conference League, and then that are just the sports. Not even talk, and that's just the football, as a matter of fact. Not even talk about the other sports that we get from it, plus the movie them when we get, plus the news channel them and all of that. It's a lot of content that you get on Paramount. Just using Paramount as an example. Right? And, we get a lot of content from Paramount, and, it's 24/7 coverage. It's 24/7 content you get from them. And here it is that I'm paying the same amount of money to JFF for, I'm paying the same amount of, money to JFF for no and again content. No, we got the Trinidad game just happened. The first game, the streaming was abysmal. It was poor. But we, I think as fans we can forgive the JFF and say, it's their first time. Let's give them another shot at it. And by the second game, it was better, but it still wasn't great. Let's be honest. It was better, but still not great. The JFF probably needs to get more equipment. Like if I'm watching a JPL game on Sportsmax, for example, and when I watch Sportsmax, for watch a JPL game, that looks good. The JPL, it looks good on Sportsmax, right? Like you can see different angles going on. You can see from behind the goal, from a side-on shot from this side, behind the goal for both goals, from the corner flag, like many different angles you have. And I get it. JFF, you're just starting, so like you there is still a distance for you to go before you get to a point where you can feel like you can present the type of content that you want. But in the interim, while you're working on getting equipment to show the content better, I think that there's some things that you can do, and I think that there are things that you have to think. You have to have a rotating door of content coming out, because remember, people are paying $9.99, and I don't mind paying the $9.99. I know a lot of people say it's a lot of money, and to an extent I agree with them, but for me, it's paying the $9.99 is contributing to the program, right? So I'm not going to cry about the money, because I want the JFF to be successful. I don't want you to be broke. I want you to be in the black or in the green, and not owing people and in debt all the while and all of that. I would love to hear that the JFF is in a surplus. So for me, I don't mind paying the $10, even though right now I don't feel like what I'm getting for the $10 is enough. I don't feel like what I'm getting is enough. And so I want to suggest some things that you could do that I think fans would like to see, for the money that they're paying, right? And as you're doing these things, you have to come up with a revolving door of content that you're giving to us, that's paying for that subscription. So here is my few cents on that. And that is, for one, I would love to see a long form interview with the JFF president. Michael Ricketts doesn't really talk a lot. I don't see a lot of interviews with him. And when you do see an interview with him, it tends to be like a short clip here or there. It's not anything in depth. I don't know what his philosophy on football is, what he would like to see. And I'm not just talking about like general things that he says, like, oh, we'd love to see Jamaica qualify for the World Cup and we want all the teams to do well, and those general type of platitudes. I'm not talking about that. I want to know in your brain, what is your footballing background? Where does your passion for football come from, Mr. Ricketts? I want to hear a little bit more in depth about your football brain. If somebody can dig deep in your brain and come out and talk, what is it that you want to see in Jamaican football, and what it is that is happening now that you want to change? What are your plans long-term for the long-term future of Jamaican football? Whether that has to do with infrastructure, whether that has to do with development, whether for the youth and for the sea. What are your thoughts on, what is your philosophy on the diaspora players versus the local players? What are your, where does your footballing desire come from, Mr. Ricketts? I would love to hear a long form interview. Like, oh, you have those interviews like, like what the Fix do, or the Jeffrey guy do, those type of long form interview where you get into a lot of depth. I want to hear what's in your footballing brain, Mr. Ricketts, because I've never heard that from him before. I've heard a lot from a Rudolph Speed and quite a bit from a Dennis Chung, but I would love to hear more from the president, because you are the leader, you're the CEO of the company. Let's hear from you. So that's one thing I would be interested in. I think a lot of, fans would be as well. The second thing is JFF General Secretary, a long form interview with him as well. Now, the reason why I think talking to a Dennis Chung again would, in a long form, would be good is for the financial aspect, because I know he is dealing with a lot of finances for the JFF, and he's kind of a little bit of the engine, so he can connect some of the dots between the players playing and the coaches coaching to the finances and what it costs, and make that connection for us. And so I personally would love to hear a Dennis Chung talk about the finances of the JFF. Where are we now financially? Are we now completely out of debt? And what is your projection over the next year? What is it that you would like to accomplish financially in the next calendar year? Or can we look to get a surplus of a 90 million Jamaican dollars, or even a 90 million US dollars? And then if you do meet that do you have a financial goal? And if you meet that financial goal, what does that mean for Jamaica's football? Let's say you set a financial goal for Jamaica to be $100 million in the black in the next year. If you were to hit that goal, what would that mean for Jamaica? How would it help? And so what are your plans? What is the Federation's plan in terms of raising funding and getting that funding and using that funding to do what? How would Jamaica's football improve with more money? I would love to hear Dennis Chung speak on that. Speak on what are you doing to get more funding. We see the JFF Live things. Are there other things that you're doing? We would love to know. And there could be other things too, So there is that. My third thing is the Minister of Sports. I would love to see a long form interview with Babsy Grange. And this has to do with how government can impact football in Jamaica. How can the government help? And I'm not just talking about when the teams are traveling abroad and they're out of money to come in and give them a subvention, right? I get that. That's good. And I applaud that, and I encourage it, I endorse it. However, does the government believe that they play a role in the development of infrastructure in Jamaica, in the development of professionalizing the league, in the development of providing more prize money or more incentive, financial incentive for professionalizing the league and to expand the league in Jamaica? Is there any role that they can play in setting standards to raise the quality of the footballing infrastructure in Jamaica? Does government play any role in that at all? Or is it just they leave the JFF? You handle that. We're just going to come in when you call us. Does the government, so in other words, in the same way like the government, I look at something like the Morant Bay Urban Center, for example, or some of the other infrastructure projects that the government have. Do you have any infrastructure projects like that for sport, given the importance of football in Jamaica? Do you have any infrastructure project? I know they're talking about the national stadium. Are there any ones to build another, to develop anything else? And what's the timeline? What does that look like? When can we expect that? So those are some of the things that we'd love to hear from the Minister of Sports. And in all of these interviews, I would also suggest to the JFF Live that you open, you allow the fans or the members, the ones who have subscribed, to send in questions for you to ask. Maybe you can use 1 day or 2 days to say, hey, we're going to have this interview with Babs Grange in 2 days. Sending your questions to us. Let's sift through them, and so that we can ask those questions when we meet. Because what we wouldn't want is just a bland interview where just ask general questions. We want in-depth questions so that we can learn what's going on in the minds of the ministers and the presidents and the general secretary. So there's that. Then the head coaches of each of the senior teams, that would be a Hubert Busby and a Steve McLaren. Like I know, so Steve McLaren used to coach Manchester United as coach. He used to be a former England coach. But it would be nice to see a long form interview where McLaren talks about his childhood, what led him to be a football coach, why did you choose football to become a football coach as opposed to anything else that you could have done? What was you? Where did your desire for coaching football come from? You know, and what is it that you would love to achieve with Jamaica's football? What is your perspective, Mr. McLaren, on Jamaica and the state of Jamaica's football? You know, where's the state? That maybe even the president needs to do a state of Jamaica's football address to the Reggae Boyz nation. State of Jamaica's football. Like how you have a State of the Union speech, state of Jamaica's football. But I would love to hear from head coach Steve McLaren, from the boys' side, or from the Reggae Boyz side. What is your perspective on the state of Jamaica's football right now? From a man coming from a Manchester United, a man coming from a much more professional environment than Jamaica, what is the state of Jamaica's football? And we don't want any platitudes either. We want you to be honest, right? And then also from the senior girls head coach to say, what is the state of Jamaica's senior girls? Because we don't hear about that, you know. You know, we only know the senior girls, we have good enough girls to qualify for us for World Cup. But we need somebody who not only can speak on the current state of women's football in Jamaica, but to talk about what needs to happen in women's football in Jamaica. What needs to happen that is not currently happening in Jamaica's football? I would love to hear from the coaches. And I'll make the suggestion to you, JFF Live. I don't know if you'll ever listen to me. I mean, I'm not really one of those big YouTubers, so you might not listen to me. But if you did, have a section called Coach's Corner in JFF Live, where a coach on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, you can choose a bi-weekly basis. You have the senior Reggae Boyz coach, the senior Reggae Girls coach, the under-20 boys coach, the under-20 girls coach, the under-17 boys coach, the under-17 girls coach. Let them come in and tell us what's going on in the program before we get to a tournament. We don't want to just hear from them when a tournament is about to come up. Keep us abreast of what is going on. In addition to that, you know, and these are just questions that's coming up, but like a under 23 squad. Like, where is that? What is the state of the under 23 squad? That might be a question for a JFF president. You see, these are things that this is the type of thing that I would think is exclusive content. And because I don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to rush through the rest. But youth head coaches, I would love to see them come and, as I said, talk about the state of the teams. Tell us what you're doing. What are your plans? How are you getting them prepared? How is this under 17 team now failed to qualify for the World Cup? What are we going to do from here on in to make sure they're ready for next year? Because the preparation for next year's World Cup starts right now. I mean, we have to get over the fact that we didn't qualify. Unfortunately, it hurts me too, but we got to do that. The preparation for next year starts now so that we don't find ourselves back in this situation. So an assessment needs to happen as quickly as possible. We need to sit down with the youth head coaches and let them use JFF Live to periodically tell us, how are you developing the squad? What's going on? And so there's that. Then I put diaspora engagement in it. I think some of the things that you can do, JFF Live, is come to the diaspora sometimes and have diaspora forums. You know, have some forums with the diaspora. You know, I know that that's a little bit harder than than I'm saying it, but it would be nice to get the diaspora involved. Kind of some of the things, like what I said, the government, the way they come and have town halls. You know, even one town hall in America for the Reggae Boyz would go a far way, you know, because it shows that you care about the fans in the diaspora. And you could raise a lot of funds from that too. Have a Reggae Boyz town hall in New York City. I don't even live in New York, you know. So if I was to go there, I would have to travel. But if I heard that you were doing something like that, or any you know, post where there's a lot of Jamaicans, whether that's in New York or in Florida, you know, there's a lot of Jamaicans in Fort Lauderdale, or in Atlanta, there's a lot of Jamaicans there, or in Texas, anywhere where there's a lot of Jamaicans. Have a Reggae Boyz town hall. I'm planning. Say it from a you know, wheel, you know, bring some of the Reggae Boyz to come and meet the diaspora fans in the same way that you would bring the team around to different schools in the high schools and make them meet the fans. You can do something like that too. You know, I think diaspora engagement, if you did even one Reggae Boyz town hall to engage the diaspora, I promise you that would go so far reaching, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. Trust me. Try it. And then the fan support, I think some stuff like that needs to be harnessed. You need somebody to focus on fan support, someone that focuses on organizing fan support, someone that is actively engaging in whenever we have a match, we have to decide on a section that the Reggae Boyz fans will sit. We're one of the only international teams that I know that doesn't do that. You know, we don't have a designated section that said these 1,000 seats is for Reggae Boyz fans. Because when we go to the games, we're scattered all over the stadium, right? When we go to away games, when we're in the national stadium, you know, we are everywhere. But notice when international teams come to Jamaica and play us, they are organized. They sit in one place. I remember going to a Mexico match in Jamaica when Mexico beat us in the national stadium, and all of their supporters was in one square section in the national stadium. We don't do that. You get me? So we need to go back to some of the days where when we have away matches, we organize packages for persons in Jamaica to fly with the team and sit down in one section of the stadium. Those are things that you can organize, and you can use JFF Live to do that. You can use JFF Live to do that. And then finally, the Reggae Boyz Forum. This is something I used to see online before, where people just came online and they just kind of spoke their feelings or their minds on the state of Jamaica's football. That's kind of evolved into this now, YouTube and Instagram and all of that, I think it's kind of more modern, but I think it's important to have fan forums where the suggestions and the what do you call it? No, the commentary, the comments from the fans are not as restricted, and where you can be a little bit more, a little bit less formal, present presenting allowing people who are interested in helping to voice themselves on those platforms, like a Facebook platform. I know Facebook is not as popular as Instagram now, but Facebook still kind of have it's more, Facebook is both mobile and desktop friendly, whereas Instagram is more mobile friendly. It's more mobile type thing. It's kind of limited in some ways to what you can do, but Facebook can be a little bit more interactive. So I would suggest, I don't know if you have a JFF Live Facebook page, but I would suggest starting that and have people following you there too, so that you can actually have people in a less formal way, not disrespectful, but less formal way, suggest things, discuss Jamaican's football, of course, but suggest some things that they can help with. I mean, just having a whole media team that's just doing YouTube and Instagram is good, but I think you can add more media to that. So I mean, that's my foolish advice, if you want to call it that. I just see that the JFF Live, a lot of people were not happy about the fact that they spent their $10 subscribing, and then they not only were they not happy with the streaming of the game, but they just didn't think that there was enough content coming from the channel as well. So I believe that there is a little bit more that we can do. If you're going to pay $10, I don't mind paying it, but I need more. I need more from you. We need more from the JFF in general. We just to sum up everything I've been saying, we need more from you. The under 17 lack of qualification is also at your doorstep. You are responsible for that. We need more from you. We need more from JFF Live if we're going to pay that $10. And yeah, I'll just leave it there for now. So, thank you, everyone. This wasn't the most interactive, stream, because I don't want to stay too long today, but I just kind of wanted to get some things that it was on my mind out to everybody. And, I know I haven't made a stream or a video in a long time, but I really wanted to wait until there was qualification from the under 17 World Cup. But everyone, thank you for coming. Those of you who came by, those of you who came through, thank you for coming through. Thank you for watching the video. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Until next time, that might be in a day or two or few. But until next time, walk good, take care of yourself. I'm out.